Mrs. Clerk.
Present are Larry McDonald, Marilyn Jordan, Joan Fonts, Tom Worthing, Bonnie Catulli, and Marilyn Donahue.
Is there anybody here for citizens participation? All right, well, let's just move on. I want to take something out of order if it pleases the committee. Mr. Fitton is here to discuss Article 24, the amending the zoning bylaws. Is that okay with everybody on the committee? Sure. All right, Mr. Fitton, if you'll talk into the mic like he told us to and explain a little bit. Well, hold on just a second. Let us, Mrs. Clerk, if you want to read Article 24 so we have a little, would you like me to? Or?
Wait a minute, just find it now.
I got it. You want me to read it?
I got it.
All right.
To see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaws for accessory buildings in residential districts.
Okay. Mr. Fitton, would you introduce, well, I think I've just introduced you, so could you talk a little bit about this article?
Yeah, thank you ladies and gentlemen for inviting me to your meeting. Basically what this warrant is right now, if you want to build a shed, you have to have it 15 feet off the back of your property and 10 feet off the sides. Now, if you have a lot 10,000 feet or less, that kind of puts it in the middle of the yard, middle of the backyard, or in some cases right in the middle of the house. What basically it does is set it back to the setback back to 5 feet and 5 foot for any lot 10,000 foot and under. It shouldn't incur the town any cost at all. It may generate some income for the town, whereas right now there have been one shed and one garage over the last year and a half that have gone to the zoning board of appeal, and that's it. But in one stretch of road, 1 mile stretch of road, last fall there were 5 sheds put up. None of them had a permit. So that was all lost income. I go on the premise that most people are honest, that they would get permits if they could put the shed where they wanted to. And this just gives the people an opportunity to put the shed where they want without it costing them $400 or better before they even start anything. And that's what the size of it. Any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Anybody, do you want to start on that end? Yes.
So you want this petition article, and I don't have it in front of me, for the accessory building, it is right now 10 feet and 15 feet. You want to change it to
Correct.
5 and 5 foot.
For lots under 10,000 square feet.
Under 10,000.
Mr. Worthing.
I have no questions.
Mrs. Catulli.
I guess my question is, I mean, what is the basic purpose for your thinking that you want to change the bylaws?
Because from, I believe it was 1956 when the town first had bylaws to 2002, it was always 5 foot and 5 foot. Then in 2006, it was changed to 10 foot and 10 foot. No one's exactly sure when it changed from 10 foot and 15 foot off the rear, but it got changed to, excuse me, to that. And I asked Bob, the building inspector, what was the reasoning for it. He said there was no real reason, it was just put in there. So if you want to build a shed, it puts it in the middle of a small lot's yard. It puts it right in the middle of the yard instead of putting it in the corner where most people prefer to have a shed. And that's the reason.
I'm a little concerned over the wording of this petition, and that it's not specific to what you just explained to us. I think that's probably an issue with the town moderator. I mean, you're asking to vote to amend the zoning bylaws, but you're not stating specifically what your amendment is. Or at least I don't have that.
I believe it further is in the warrant and the explanations of it. It's just for residential areas, and it spells it out to 10 square foot, 10,000 square foot and under, And it's just for accessory buildings. It pertains to no housing or anything else. It's just to accessory buildings.
Do we know whether that's specific to this article, what the change is?
Is there any issues we've had town council with this article? Do you want to come up and talk about that for just a minute?
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to have to see whether you're speaking about sort of a defect in the article. We're going to have to see whether the motion will be allowed to cure that. Because right now, without specifically stating residential and 10,000 square foot lots, it might not be specific enough, because if we remember, the purpose of a warrant is to warn everybody for that. But it's going to be up to really the moderator to whether she'd allow it through, and then if she does, the AG's office is the next step on there. So whether they approved it. I mean, it's a pretty general warning of anybody with those, but there could be the issue on it. And the one thing is, petitioners often say, well, the town didn't help me with my article, or the town didn't help me write it, and we can't. And I remember somebody got up at town meeting and said that once. Well, that the administration wasn't helpful. We can't on the petitioned articles. So.
Mrs. Donahue.
Are you all done?
I just to
sorry.
make one comment, and that is that I live in a neighborhood where they pretty much call it, we have all these stockade fences around everybody, and 5 feet makes a big difference. There has been a lot of controversy of, is the person's stockade fence on their property line, et cetera, et cetera. So I can understand them moving it back farther just for, the idea that, there's been some discrepancies with property lines in really thick neighborhoods like that. So I could understand their reasoning for that. 5 feet doesn't leave much for error. It's just my comment.
Well, the flip side of that is, especially if there's no stockade fence, if I have a shed that's 15 feet out in the middle of my yard, where am I gonna put all the stuff I don't wanna look at behind my shed? And who gets to look at that? The person behind me. So there's a flip side to everything here. I know, I put up fences before for work, and I know the fights I go over putting up fences, boy.
I don't have any discussion of the particular issue involved, other than if you were to try to sell it to me, I would like to know why the change went from 5 by 5 to 15 by 10. I mean, there's got to be a rationale, and it also, what they were trying to achieve when they changed it from 5 feet by 5 feet to 15 feet by 10 feet. There was a reason for doing that.
Yes, but no one knows what the reason is.
Oh, well,
This
then
is
you've
the
got,
building
then,
inspector doesn't know the reason
and then if you, somewhere along the way, there may be, you can research and find the reason. Other things is you'd be interested to know what other communities, what the rules are in, the zoning is in other communities.
A lot of,
So I'm just telling you how, if you were to present it,
right,
those are the things that would be information that would be helpful in making, may even hurt your case, but
well, I've worked with the planning
of
board on
interest.
this since December. And what other towns do is what we've done here. And sometimes it goes by square footage of the accessory building itself to allow it to be 5 foot off the property. There's different ways different towns do it. But most generally, they all do it for the same reason, that if you have a small yard, there's no place for a shed. What happens is these box stores, they'll come in on a Saturday and a Sunday and they'll drop a shed there. Now no one made out on that deal, There was no money for the town or anything else, so, but to say, what are you gonna say to the guy? No, this
I
wasn't
sympathize
fair.
with what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it. I'm just trying to help you.
Right.
help
play
you do it.
Devil's advocate, I understand that, yeah.
Mrs. Donahue.
I also want to sympathize with what you're doing, because I think it's critical that we're talking about lots that are 10,000 square feet and under. I had one of those sheds that was on the back of my lot, and when I had my plot plan done, my surveyor said, oh yeah, and I put the shed back on your lot where it was supposed to have been. He never actually moved it, he just drew the lines where they were supposed to be. It is a problem, we know that, we're aware of it, so I sympathize with what you're trying to do, but there's two parts to this. One is the substance of what you're trying to really accomplish, and two is the mechanism to get it through town meeting. So I think although the idea is probably going to be okay, I think the mechanism, what Derek was trying to say, is flawed. We have to go back and talk to the moderator and town council on the technicality part of it. And I'm a little disappointed to hear you say that you did talk to the planning board, because
Yes,
they're the
we're working
ones
on
who
this.
should be helping, I mean, helping write this or helping to make this change or reviewing this change or something. They either could give you guidance or direct you where you could get better
Well-
guidance to make it specific.
I go to my public meeting next Monday, and I have to amend this already because I have offsets instead of setbacks.
Okay.
So it has to be amended
And the other thing
during that meeting.
that I would like to see put in there is a limitation on the size of the accessory building, because I understand your concern about 5 feet, the back of the lot, I'm okay with that, but I don't want someone to put up a 50-foot garage back there.
Correct, but
So
Yeah.
the
that
specifics
was
need to be.
discussed, but then garages come under the heading of accessory buildings too, so that,
Right, and I'm just be concerned about the maximum size and coverage. So there's just a lot of issues here, so good luck at your meeting next week.
well, you know, this is the way it reads, the warrant article itself. Amend the zoning bylaws for accessory buildings for all residential districts, lots of 10,000 square feet and under. The changes will affect the offsets back to 5 foot on the side and 5 feet off the back of the property, and limit the height to 25 feet. Now, back in '02, it was 5 foot, and 35 foot. So,
And again, the problem that we have is the specifics that you're reading off there aren't what made it into the warrant, correct?
That's what we're
that's what the
looking at.
warrant says.
Okay.
That is what the warrant says.
That's not what our warrant says.
Yeah, that's the explanation, but not the article
explanation
itself.
doesn't make it into the warrant.
Okay.
All right, so
Yeah.
that's the technical concern. But thank you very much for coming and speaking.
All right, thank you.
Well, hold on, you still got me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I always get shortchanged. I get to talk. But there's actually two issues here. One is I understand what you're trying to do, but as far as the revenue for that would come in on sheds, that's a separate item altogether. This is not going to help the revenue come in. That's enforcement that makes the revenue come in. The people that are building sheds without permits, you know, that's not going to be addressed by this article.
Right. Well,
So I would limit what you say to the article at town meeting, because you're talking about an issue that is not really going to be changed by this article, so it's kind of out of the scope of the article. Do you see what I'm saying?
right, yeah, I understand that, but you have to go on the premise that most people are honest. If they have the opportunity to put it there legally, they will pull a permit.
I agree, but if we're talking just about
Right.
that, and that's a separate, like I said, that's a separate discussion,
Right.
because this is mostly about changing basically setbacks, if you will.
Right.
And so it's not really going to help the article that people aren't going to get building permits. That's something that needs to go through enforcement.
Right.
All right, but as far as, from the finance committee standpoint, we'd love for somebody to go after them and get the money for that, because we need money in this
Right,
town.
well, that's
And that's
right.
how we feel about it, but
Yeah.
that doesn't get addressed in the article. So, we will probably hold this until we have a discussion with our town moderator and town council, so that we can make sure that everything is clear, because what we're reading here doesn't match up with the explanation that you're saying. So I want to make sure it's all, everything's the same before we vote on it as a committee. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
All right, well then we appreciate your time. You have any more questions for us?
No, like I said, I have to meet with the planning board on Monday, and we'll amend that for the offset to be setbacks, and, you know, any other things that the planning board, you know, like I said, we've worked on this since
Right.
December to get it to where it was, so hopefully it goes through.
Okay.
This was,
Thank you very
this was
much.
in October, right? Didn't this
Well,
come up as an issue in October?
Yeah,
So just keep punching.
yeah.
I mean, you're dealing with a public agency. They're not known for being fast.
Yeah, well, we'll work on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that a weight joke?
No, No, I don't think he, never mind. You know what? I'm out of line, Mike. We had this discussion before. Just want to go over briefly some business. Because on July 1st, we will have 2 openings on this committee, at least 2 openings, maybe 3, possibly 2. So we would like anybody that's interested in applying for the Finance Committee to either go to the Selectman's office, you can apply through the town website, or you can send an email to fincom@wareham.ma.us. Or come here and see us and we'll talk to you about it. We'll recruit you. All right, Mr. Town Administrator, you're up next.
$35 feet, he said.
All right, we're on to the next subject.
This is for the EMS article.
Okay.
That's not what it is now, that's what it used to be.
Okay.
He was looking for 25.
He wants
And we said the last person that came to the FinCom meeting had to buy the donuts for next week. That's what, I believe that was the. All right,
Hi, Jeff.
you're up.
Thank you. For the updated budget, we are still waiting for the new rates for the health and the general insurances. We did have an audit of our workers' comp. As a result of that audit, this year's cost went up approximately $15,000.
This year,
Yeah,
14.
This 14. We did have credits from Maya that we were able to put against that. What would have changed it are items such as what was estimated by Maya before the beginning of their year of what our payrolls would be. So how they were so far off is kind of is something that we want to speak to them about, because our payroll is essentially no different than the previous fiscal year. So I don't know where they were thinking of their numbers, but we had their auditor in. We challenged their first findings, which had brought approximately, would have been a $20,000 increase, and we went through all their lines and we brought it down to a $15,000. So,
Challenge it again, bring it down to 10.
yeah, unfortunately, this time around they did do the right job on it. So. Again, we're still waiting for the health insurance. We're probably looking. Where we've budgeted is a good conservative number, so I wouldn't see any changes going above that or below that. We know that we still have the issues with the health care of the employee and employer splits. We obviously haven't cured that. We helped it out last year with the extra money we put in, but we would still be pretty far off. Although this year we're trending a little bit better by what we've been putting in and budgeted. So that's something we're probably going to have to cure over several years. But we have an issue that we will be audited by the federal government as part of the Affordable Health Care Act. So that may be something that they're going to force us to correct sooner rather than later. And that's really for the budget updates. We are still working on what we'd be putting forward for potentially any sort of enhancements to the FY15 budget, and seeing what would make sense. Again, we've already essentially come up with a cut budget that would bring it in line, but we know that that's not necessarily the best one for the residents of this town, so we need to put in a supplement to see what we have and we can offer through that. And that's really the update for the budget items.
Since Mr. Slavin's not here tonight, are there any changes to articles in the regular town meeting as far as, say, like cemetery articles?
The cemetery article is not going to be changed. Well, it will be changed on the town meeting floor. There's the item that's in there for approximately $90,000. What we've done for that is we've put a article in the special town meeting, which will be for capital and the actual funding of it. So when we get to the annual town meeting article, we will lower that one on the floor by approximately $90,000. Just so everybody knows, there's the allowances for lowering something is much more palpable than it is increasing it. So if you had a cost of something for 100,000, wanted to lower it to 10,000, realistically no problem. If you want to increase it to 120,000, probably a big issue. So.
And any other changes on that one?
Not that I know of right now.
Well, do you want to go briefly, because I think most of the articles that are in the special town meeting have to do with town business.
Yeah, and actually,
Would you guys like to skip ahead to the special?
Hey, I'll skip anywhere you want me to.
Yeah, if you let me boot up the computer real quick too. That's,
Do you need a computer? Are you not that, total
Off
recall?
the top of your head, Derek. Just
Let's
off the
try
top
it.
of
Let's
your head.
try it without it. We'll
All
take
right.
it.
I love a man who's got up for a challenge. Let's see if we can rock this boat for now.
I just lost my little piece of paper, really?
So everybody should have a copy of the special town meeting warrant. It should be, unfortunately, it seems to be about the same size as the other one, but I think there's probably a lot of,
Yeah, there's approximately 11 placeholders
11
for
placeholders.
union articles. First one should be the inter and intradepartmental
Well-
transfers.
Don't get too far ahead of us. Is that it? All right. Article 1, which normally I would turn over to Mrs. Catulli, who is our clerk, and would read it, but we know that Article 1 is just, you're going to have a chart
Correct.
for us at that point in time of the transfers. We'll
Yeah.
see that before town meeting, correct?
You will see it before town meeting, and we are, as in the past, we do try and limit these, but this is our best way to mitigate any issues. And really, when doing this, our ultimate goal is that we don't have any of those year-end transfers that we know that people don't enjoy.
So now, starting with Article 2, I will turn it over to our lovely and talented clerk, Mrs. Catulli, to read the, go ahead.
Stabilization Fund, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $440,000 to the stabilization fund, or to take any action relative thereto.
Mr. Sullivan.
So that represents a little bit over 50% of what we received from free cash. I believe it was 874,000, and then it was 456, but we'll go with 874. And as part of, if you remember, we've created the policy from the Board of Selectmen that was recommended to them that any free cash we get, at least 50% of it goes into a stabilization fund, and that's what we're looking to do to keep it within that policy.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to support favorable action for Article 2.
Second?
I think you're right. This is what we have to do. Would it be confusing if we changed our vote for special town meeting, if it was different than regular town meeting? Because I think from the finance committee, I like the support, but I would prefer it to be the finance committee advises favorable action or something like that. Does that make sense?
Not getting what you're saying.
It's favorable action. We're voting favorable action, but from our standpoint, we're really voting to advise favorable action. Does that make sense? Okay, we'll go with favorable action. All right.
You know what,
You understand what I'm saying?
I don't.
I actually agree with Larry, because I.
Oh, my God.
I don't think
I need to step outside for a moment.
you can technically advise a vote. You have to take a vote.
No, the motion is, we can make the motion anything we want. That's the cool thing about this. The motions are, but from a finance committee, I move to advise favorable action. I mean, we could do that if we wanted to, but let's not confuse people because we've already stuck it up in next year, the new chairman can take this on. So I have a motion for favorable action. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion on this article?
What's to discuss, really?
Well, the discussion that I would have is that we're putting $440,000 in stabilization, and that's a good thing.
Yes.
But Tom is going to blow this for me right now. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, the town's services are insolvent with the budget. And here we're pushing $440,000 to the sidelines. And maybe the stabilization fund is designed to help in those instances.
I know.
I know the answer.
Everybody knows the answer, so. Would you like to address this? Because you want me to? Do you
Yeah,
want
Mr.
Marilyn to? Pick your choice.
I think it was from Mr. Cotter's class.
I knew this one.
Horse Shack, go ahead.
DOR says no. DOR does not recommend using free cash for.
I don't care what DOR says.
See that, and therein
But
lies the
Derek does.
problem.
They're not running this town yet.
Yeah, but they will be
Yeah.
if we continue to ignore when they tell us to do something,
But
which
that's
we have
just-
done in
Here-
the past.
We're
That's
shutting
just
down a
your magic
library.
rabbit coming out of the hat one more time.
It's right on their website, Tom. And when you pull up the definition of free cash, where it comes from and what it's for, and actually, Derek, I'd like to compliment you because a lot of people think this seems like a lot of money. Typically, free cash is supposed to be 3 to 5% of the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that was news to me because we have very little free cash.
Yeah.
So there are towns looking at 3 to 5% of their budget, and they're still being told, don't put it back into operations. It should go to one-time use.
Capital stabilization. That's what it should go to. And yes, we are insolvent in our town, and yes, we are closing the library. And yes, I hate every bit of that. But the reality is, if we can't manage our town, which we haven't, at least let's put this money away till we can manage our town. I don't know. That's probably not the right thing to say. So I have I have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion?
I have one question.
Yes.
Is there going to be a little explanation and along your lines saying we recommend this highly to the voters?
There will be an explanation,
And
and
the
you're going to write it.
There you go, I'll do it.
Thank you. And please make sure, we'll all write it together, but we'll help you write it.
You'll worry what I'm going to say.
But
No, I'm not worried what you're going to
If you go
say.
on the DOR website, it's very clear,
It's
like a
very
slide.
clear.
It's
I've been
very,
Right.
3 to 5%.
Right. I'm not worried what you write because as the
Mr.
chairman, I can edit it. So, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstain? What do we got tonight? 6, 7?
wait, which way did Tom go?
We don't have,
Did you vote? Okay, you want to try it again?
David. What? No,
You vote, everybody's favorable?
8, yeah.
7-0.
You know, we should say, though, that the free cash and stabilization are both the same oxymoron, really. I mean, it's not gonna, it's just a bad,
Free cash you don't carry over. Well, you do carry over.
yeah, but what I'm saying is that it isn't the panacea that it says it is. It's a holding spot, really. and
It's an
that's-
earmark. That's all it is. I mean, we're just putting it in there, but I guess you can call it a ceremony in a sense because one of the things we've been very bad about is stabilization. One of the many things we've been bad about is stabilization, and here we have an opportunity, and we have a selectmen's policy, which I will add isn't always followed. Am I correct?
Yeah. That's
All right. So now we're practicing good fiscal management by doing policy following. So anyway, 700, Article 3, Mrs. Cattouli.
To see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash a sum of money for the purpose of acquiring and installing LED lighting and related equipment for the municipal properties or to take any action relative thereto. Do we have an actual figure on this?
Yeah, it would be $100,000 is what we're estimating right now. I'm looking to get the information back from NSTAR. That's part of their reimbursement plan where you get 40% reimbursed from the cost of the installation and prices of the lights and such, and then you receive an additional 30% of the 40%, so roughly 52%. When they first came in, they were talking about a 70% reimbursement, but we asked the question, it's like anything, what's the reimbursement? No, it's closer to 52, but we're able to, those incentives, the extra 30% were only available for municipalities. So we went into this, a building like the town hall and multi-service center, the actual cost of the town would probably be about, I think 15 to 16,000. The repayment time on that would be about 18 months. So,
It's a no-brainer.
we have some of the larger ones, which we may have to figure out and put into future capital plans, or some of the schools. Some of the schools have really issues with the lighting, let's say, and the amount. And even with being reimbursed a large sum of money, some are close to 120 to 190,000. So our goal is to start with the buildings that we can with this 100,000. The multi-service center, town hall, the police is an important one because that's running lights 24/7. So you can pay back on that. The EMS will cost about, I think about $1,800, and all in all, their repayment time is several months. So, I mean.
Did you say 100,000?
Yes.
That's the amount of money that should be in this thing?
Correct.
All right, so,
That's what our estimate is now. Again, I'm looking to come back and see what we get from NSTAR for actually all the rebates and such. They do allow as part of this program up to 2 years of 0% financing. I would prefer that we start off with the savings right away, and if we want to move forward and use some of the other larger buildings, try and finance it with the part of the repayment. But it's just when you get into the larger ones, the repayment time is closer to 2.5 to 3 years. So.
When you say repayment,
So let's say it costs $50,000 a year until the amount of savings you'll have from your electricity till you reach the $50,000. So, and this is a program that a lot of municipalities have been jumping on. We're also trying to get it for the street lights, which, as you know, are they will not only, we've got some of the period lights, so they will not only fix the lights with new LED lights, but the whole tops that are rotted out and ruined on them, they will install new ones on that as well. So.
okay, let's do this first. I'll entertain a motion in a second on Article 3.
I'll move favorable action on Article 3.
second?
Okay, any discussion? Yes,
So what you're saying is for the
Mrs. Jordan.
$100,000, the multi-service center, the town hall, the police, and the EMS will get new LED lights.
Yeah, and probably a few more things. I'm still waiting on the whole payback on it. I'm using 100,000 because I feel that's what we can take out of the free cash for the rest of the items, and I'm considering it a capital cost, which is a proper use of free cash.
anyone else? All right, all those in favor of Article 3,
Aye.
say aye. All those opposed? All those abstained? 7-0-0. Derek, there are no explanations in the warrant we got for the special town meeting, but when she needs those
Okay.
explanations. All right. We'd like them bilingual too, just so you know.
Well, I'm seeing the way the pen's flicking, so that means move it and get them fast.
You should see the marks I get poked on with it. Anyway, Mrs. Clerk, Article 4.
To see if the town will vote to transfer a sum of money from free cash to the assessor's expenses for the purpose of funding personal property revaluation or to take any action relative thereto. Do we have an amount?
$14,500, I believe. Is what I have for that.
14,500?
Yeah, that's a part of the revaluation as well. That's we've already done personal property, but apparently sorry, Bob.
6 inches from the microphone at all
6
times, please.
Apparently, we need to also start on the personal property again for next year, starting in this year. And as you know, I can't expend FY15 dollars in FY14, so we can use the free cash for this. We're also heading into our 10-year measure and list, which is a mammoth project, and we're probably going to have to look to use some funds from the sale of real estate or free cash next year and able to afford some of the measure and listing for that. An item such as that can cost up to $250,000. So
What is that?
that is when you have to go through and essentially measure and relist all the properties in town.
It's like a reval,
Like your mega reval, let's call it.
called government regulations, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You
So-
measure the square footage of the personal property? Is that, have I got that right?
No, measure and list of the properties. That the personal property is something else, and Personal property is sometimes some of the stores is actually some of the personal property. Sometimes it's what's inside vacation homes and such. So but the personal property, you still need to have somebody go out and collect it. And this is, we use vendors for that, so.
I'll entertain a motion on Article 4.
She's still a
I
question.
need
Oh,
it.
well, we were gonna have questions after the, I
I
always do
I
that.
need can you give me an example of something that's gotta get measured? A house?
The measure and list is separate from the personal property. Measure and list is what you have to do every 10 years for the valuations of commercial and residential property. Personal property is another item
Yeah,
that,
no, okay, I understand that difference.
Yeah.
But so your house has gotta get measured, is that right?
for the personal property, I couldn't give you an example
No,
on
he
it.
means the measuring list, that's
On
what
the
we're
real
not.
estate.
Oh, the measuring and list,
10-year.
yeah, whether it's physically the house, the dimensions, whether it's physically the properties and such, so you have to get a certain amount of them done and do it every year. So technically, by the end of 10 years,
You've done
every
it.
single property should have been done.
So we have, how long before this is up?
We're coming up to almost a year or two away. So we have a meeting with the Department of Revenue for their assessing division, which is actually the BLS. And we're going over all we need to do with that. So the good news is when we're doing the permitting and such, you're picking up some of the properties that way. The bad news is we're looking pretty far behind, which is why over the next year or two, you're looking at spending $250,000. So.
All right,
So physically, they'll go out and measure the property within the next 2 or 3 years. How many houses do you say, or the real estate, have already been done other than the permitting one? None?
No, there's been some. I don't have the numbers on me right now.
And on the personal property, every year we get a piece of paper that asks you your personal property, and you write it down. I have 2 TVs, I have 1 computer, I have a stove, and you put the amount in. They're now gonna come out and come to your house?
Yeah, it's some of the houses and such, and see
All
if
of the
you-
houses or
see
just
if you-
some? Is it a random sampling?
Yeah, you couldn't hit all of the houses
Right.
on that, so.
And that's what this 14 is for? to
Correct.
Have these people come out?
all right.
I'm sorry, I've lost it. Personal
Now,
property.
let's get off the 10-year measure list.
Personal property brings us a little over $1 million in
Yeah, but she's talking
revenue.
about residential. We don't do personal
Marilyn, are you a
property.
year-round,
do.
are
Yeah.
you a year-round resident now?
She
Yes.
used to
You
be.
should not be paying personal
Well, I
property.
still pay it because I pay my taxes, yes.
But you
Yeah.
don't need to.
When you
'cause that's-
officially move, until the year after you've officially moved, you're still assessed personal property.
For every
I'm
TV,
sorry,
every
I
bed,
never-
every
You're
sheet,
a permanent
everything that's in your house.
It's summer residents,
Yeah.
Okay.
summer residents and
Well,
businesses.
thank you, because
Yeah,
I was
that's-
like totally lost.
Mr. Worthing.
I'm just curious, and I don't expect an answer right now. How many variations do you get on the 10-year measurement?
You mean how much,
From 10-year, over a 10-year period, how many changes do you get? I mean,
I would not answer that, but you could have somebody that's put an addition on their house, which wasn't permitted, that we never picked up.
okay, I would just be curious as to what
Okay,
the reasons
let's
are.
go on.
But,
Mrs.
God,
Donahue.
$250,000.
Tom, actually, I had a couple of conversations this week that kind of ties into this too. And the concern is, a couple of years ago, the assessor was here before us and advocated an assistant for the department. And I know that's not a position we've been able to fund, but it seems to me, dollar-wise, maybe it makes sense to do so. And we're outsourcing, but we're not getting, we need something, it's called data collection, where you actually outsource and somebody drives by. They don't necessarily go in your house, they're certainly not itemizing property inside, but there's a field card with a description of your property. They drive by the street, they look at the address, they look at the house, it looks substantively the same. So there's eyes-on verification of that property.
And they may knock on the door.
And they may knock on the door, they may, if there's questions about whether you've had permits, or they see a big addition and there isn't a permit, it's kind of an enforcement issue too that goes along with it. But my concern is that, number one, we're missing revenue for lack of personnel, and it seems to me that maybe we could do it, especially with what's coming down on us. I can't ask you if there's any way to squeeze that out of there, but what are your,
You
tell
may
me.
want to, you actually may want to reorganize that entire department.
Okay.
conversation we had today.
You may want to reorganize that. I don't have the right to do
Yeah.
that, but that would be a serious consideration to do, because I know in the past, we did a reval in-house at one point. I'm not sure how well we did it. That was kind of before my time. But again, this is one of those things that are regulations that are required, forced on us, if you will, by the state, but we've got to do them. So let's get it done the most efficient, cost-effective way possible, and let us know what that is, and we'll
Yeah, so
support you.
again, if you don't have it ready, you will not get your tax rate set.
Right.
So,
The state carries a big stick if we don't do things the way the state wants them done. So,
Well, I
But
would
I'm
sit
gonna
down
send
with
Tom to
Google Earth
speak
and
to
look
them.
at the things before I
Okay.
went in a car.
So, I don't think I've got a
I'll
motion.
move favorable
Thank you.
action on Article 4, to see if the town will vote to transfer a sum of money
14,500.
from free
No,
cash to the
lock him
assessor's
in.
expenses for the purpose of funding personal property revaluation or to take any action relative thereto.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstain? 700. Article 5, Mrs. Cattouli.
To see if the town will vote to transfer a sum of money from free cash to the snow and ice account or to take any action relative thereto. And our amount?
Is that number still up in the air a little bit?
yeah, we've got approximately $274,000 deficit on it right now. You know, it would be, we have two options, either let the free cash flow through and have it taken out, or transfer it into the budget. And I prefer we transfer it into there so we don't even have to worry about the deficit.
I don't think we're gonna have any snowstorms, and I'm,
Oh,
never mind.
Didn't
So,
just say that.
anyway,
Monday.
There's a seat for you outside. you
I
know.
was gonna say by the time we get to April, what is it, 26th or
Yeah.
28th, I don't see anyway, I will entertain a motion on Article 5.
So moved.
Any second? Second? Okay, any more questions? What it is basically you can deficit spend on your snow and ice, but you still have to pay it eventually. Do you have any
Comment.
questions? She has a comment.
That's what I get for reading the DOR website. You're supposed to ask the permission of the Finance Committee to deficit spend.
oh,
Did you not know that?
yeah, that's, why don't we just put it flat out there for every year, can we deficit spend on snow and ice?
Well, we'll move this article, and then we'll answer that question, yes.
I will point out that we've had discussions about budgeting a little more realistic number in snow and ice. And we had that conversation with the DOR, and they like the idea of him budgeting a more average or correct number in there, as opposed to budgeting 150,000 and we spend 350. It just doesn't,
I've had that discussion for 6 years.
But
well,
we've moved off the mark.
we're
We
working
have.
on it.
We're working on it, we're getting there.
What does salt cost?
oh. Okay, let's get the article done. You can ask him what salt costs.
I mean, are you ending up with a big inventory of salt or not?
No, I mean, we had to order extra, and we were still part of the ones that weren't getting the shipments.
Haven't got it yet.
And I think it's literally at some point you're talking about dollars per ton. It's not much per ton, but you use so much.
Yeah. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstained? 700.
Just an off question, is the street sweeper available for hire?
You know,
They haven't even run it downtown yet, have they?
No, it
We're
has
not
to be
done yet,
moved at
folks,
all,
we're not
yeah.
done.
Sorry.
Is it?
I would say a good target for a policy would be that, you know, as far as the budget's concerned, is that we base this on a fixed number, whether it's the average of 5 years, average of 3 years, and just bite the bullet, and that's what we put in there for budgeting purposes,
That's
so.
basically what he's done.
Yeah, we're gonna be a little bit low on it. We added, about 135, which brought us to about 290. We've had, even though this was, let's call it a wicked winter, we had the previous year where we hit just, the 160 that we had at the time, and then the year before we had a couple big storms, so I don't think what we budget's going to actually cover it for next year if we have any sort of the same storms, which brought us closer in line. So, and they carried over the snow and ice deficit for a few years going back, and we were hit for, geez, what was it, well over $500,000 on one year, so, that we had to make up. And
Don't
just,
shake your head yet, it gets better.
and if anybody's asking, that will leave us approximately $45,500 in free cash, which I recommend we
You want-
roll over.
You want to try that 45,000?
500.
Okay. Article 6, Mrs. Cattouli. She's writing.
I was writing, I'm sorry. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Health to lease or lease purchase a vehicle with funds from the Housing Inspection Program revolving account, or to take any action relative thereto.
Mr. Sullivan.
This would be to lease a vehicle for the housing inspection program. We currently don't have a vehicle available for them. Well, they're using one of the other vehicles, one of the Crown Vic that's also used by IT and is also used by planning as well. So that's kind of a share-around vehicle. They're looking at leasing the vehicle. The estimated amount of miles they would use a year is approximately 8,000. So leasing with the maintenance plan versus us purchasing a vehicle, sort of we've been trying to figure out whether that's well within line. If we had some extra money, if we had closer to 10 to 15,000, probably the easiest thing would be for them to just go out and purchase a used vehicle. But we don't have those funds, and if you look at it over maybe 5 years, the cost of it is the same as a used vehicle. So it's kind of, we're trying to figure out how to replenish the stock and keep it moving. But this would be just dedicated to the housing inspection program, since it would be reusing the revolving account funds. So it couldn't be used by any other department.
I have a note in here that says they're trying to broaden the purposes for which the revolving fund may be spent, not seeking additional appropriation.
Yeah, they're not trying to use the general fund dollars on this.
Okay.
What's the dollar amount?
You probably have it, right? Do you guys
No.
have that? All right, so I think it's year one is with the cost in there about, I thought it was either 2,800 or 3,100, and then years 2 and 3 was approximately 2,800. So,
If I were to figure that out per mile, that's awful expensive.
so it could be a little bit cheaper once you go down to the 8,000. That's probably based off of a $12,000 lease.
Purpose of this is for that new program that we voted in,
Correct.
which is, and we are bringing in money from that, correct?
Yeah, we are bringing in the money.
Have we
This
started
fee-
this program?
Well, yeah, that's, they've brought in, they have a $50,000 limit, and I believe they've brought in approximately $64,000.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion on Article 6. No, let's do the vote, let's do the motion, and then we'll do the questions.
I'll move favorable action on Article 6.
I'm starting to get stubborn here. Any second?
Second.
Okay, Mrs. Font.
vehicles does the Board of Health have?
They have one dedicated vehicle to the department. Yes,
And this would be an additional one?
yes.
This one is specific to the program, though, correct?
Yes, and they've got the health agent, they have a health inspector, they also have another gentleman that serves as inspection for the housing, for this rental inspection, and then they may, to catch up with it, have to hire some contractors at, not much, maybe $18 an hour or something to pick up some more of it. So you can see why having a vehicle, so you can get the people out there, because we've set this program forward and we need to inspect those houses every year. And I think they've already done, I think they've already done about 600 some odd houses, so.
Well, clearly they brought in $64,000, so that's, okay, I'm sorry. Is there another question down there?
So they're using combined, one vehicle now, all these different,
They have one vehicle dedicated, and they're using one of the other town vehicles. If the employees use their own vehicle, we're paying the 50+ cents per mile, which is very expensive for us.
so if I use my own car, 50 cents per mile would be 8,000 miles.
Yeah, I think the IRS is at 55 cents right now.
Yeah, last I checked. What's 52?
So
They moved
that's-
it up.
Was that 52 or was it?
Was it 52? It might be 55 now, I haven't.
I've at 55 would be $4,400 a year.
Yes,
Well, see, we're at the same price, because if you're talking 8,000 miles, you got $3,000 on a payment, and plus gasoline, you're gonna be in that same ballpark. So, I'd rather, see, I know we have a motion on the floor currently, but I'd rather see we authorize the expending on a used vehicle and limit the dollar amount.
yes, Mrs. Donahue.
And that was my question as to funds. If the balance in that, so we're fully funded in this account, we have a cap at 50,000.
Yeah, but you forget there's accounts, there's the cost of the accounts. Paying for the gentleman, I can't remember his title on there. So at the end of this year, they'll have expended close to the $50,000.
Okay, that's,
So we don't have the funds to buy a used vehicle. So we would have to take from some other, this is the problem when you don't have cash. You have to find out another way to try and get the things that you need, and that's why we're working through the lease program. Even if this program had the mice, and what you have to remember, it's not what they earn. They have a ceiling on that. So when they earn over 50,000, the rest goes to the general fund. So even if they earn 70,000, but they only have so many dollars, and the way it's budgeted, we cannot afford to buy a car, even a used one. This whole program, they're trying to sort of self-fund it in a way. So
Makes sense.
Mrs. Donahue, did you?
no, that was my confusion, because I was thinking we had 50,000, but there are other, that's encumbered by salary.
When this came up the first time, we talked about this program was going to be completely self-funded.
right.
And I understand what you're talking about doing here. Just, obviously, it's bringing in more money than what we had anticipated, at least as a startup. So
You only earn the revenue if you go out and do the inspection.
right. I mean, it's funding itself.
So,
But this vehicle is not for any other purpose than this.
we can't use it for any other purpose.
So they're going to pay for it from the funds, basically.
Yeah, and inside the funds included their gas, it's included the insurance gets paid out of there. It's got the maintenance plan, so we're not using any of our.
So let's
any of our
just say this is no cost to the town
Yeah.
itself, the general fund of the town.
Correct.
Well, it is in a way, because wouldn't that money go back into the general fund if we didn't expend it all?
No, not out of the 50,000.
Not out of the 50.
Not out of the 50, but what he made over the 50.
But this isn't going to impact what he's made over the 50.
Well, this 50,000 that you tell me, that's a salary, right?
No, there's 50,000 includes salaries, it includes the expense of the program such as gas and everything.
And the car.
Right, all within
Cost
that
of the car.
50,000. So if they don't expend that 50,000, so if there's monies left over, that doesn't go to the general fund.
Where's it go?
It stays within that revolving
Okay,
account.
and anything above the 50,000 then so
Right.
this is not the money above the 50,000 that's paying for this car.
Correct,
This is the money within the 50,000.
correct. And last time we bought vehicles, we had 3 used vehicles that we ended up purchasing. We're usually, for our departments outside of public safety, buying used vehicles, so. My mantra in my own life is I'll never buy a new vehicle again, but.
I can't talk about that right.
So the only one who'll be driving this car is the fellow who goes out and does the inspections.
No, only anybody doing the inspections. So there could be, one of the guys in there works doing the inspections, but that's only part of his duties. There's another person that only does the inspections. And if we had to bring somebody else in, potentially them.
To do
So
the inspections.
Yeah,
It's only in the duty of doing this.
Inspections.
right.
So though, the other people who are part of the Board of Health are not being able to use this car.
Right.
Now, by using this car, if we go for this, if they take their own car, are they still gonna get reimbursed for their mileage? Or will it just be this car, now you gotta use these two cars and that's it?
They won't have the option, but if that car's not available and they need to catch up on the inspections, I could see somebody having to use their own vehicle. What you're asking me is, can 3 people use one vehicle?
No.
They can't, you know. So is there potentially somebody else could have to go out and use their vehicle and get mileage? Yes. This vehicle doesn't cure the whole thing. If we wanted, if in the right world, we'd have a mini fleet for this whole thing. You know, maybe 2 vehicles in there, maybe 3 or something, with one parked as a just in case. But we know that's not the world we live in, or the funding. So we're going to have one vehicle. They're going to use that for the inspections. However, if somebody else is going in on the inspection as well, and they have to use their own vehicle, then potentially they're going to get mileage, or they're probably going to use one of our other cars.
And the other car you have is one other car for the Board of Health.
There's one other car from the Board of Health. What I'm saying is they might use one of the other fleet vehicles. Now, are we going to charge back to the revolving account? Probably not. We're now getting into a point where it's,
We're beating
you
this.
know.
We're beating this. I think this dog has been kicked about 10 times, and it's not going to get up. All right. I do have a motion and a second. Any more questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Me.
All those abstain. So it's 6-0.
Yeah, that's it.
520.
Okay, 5-0. Sorry. Trying to throw an extra one in there
Gives you
on you.
confidence.
I'm just going cross-eyed from some. All right, Article 7 through, I think it's 17 are placeholders for contract negotiations, correct?
Correct, and I'd pass on them tonight.
All right, there is no contracts going at this point.
Correct.
All right. So let's skip over to Article 18, Madam Clerk.
To see if the town will vote to transfer from receipts reserved for appropriation sales of cemetery lots and graves the sum of $15,000, and said sum to be expended by the cemetery commissioners for the care, improvement, embellishment, or enlargement of town cemeteries, subject to the approval of the Board of Selectmen as provided by General Law, Section 114, General Law, Chapter 114, Section 27, or take any action relative thereto.
Can I have a motion on this, please?
I move favorable action on Article 18.
Any seconds?
Second.
All right. Before we get into
Mr.
discussion. Huh? Yeah, you can pass those out. We were gonna have a discussion tonight about cemetery law.
It's
Yeah.
pretty basic.
I've got
That's
a
about as
copy.
basic as you're
Just-
going to get. It's on the
She's
second-
going to pass
it's on
those
the
out to
second
you.
page.
And I am going to open my book of knowledge.
Your cheat sheet.
No, I have
This is for,
well,
that's, you can give him.
I would have opened my book of knowledge, except for the fact that this is not one of them. Okay, so I'm gonna go to this one. This is referencing.
You need me after all.
Yeah, I do. I've always said that about you.
Apologize, I did have this last week, didn't realize it. Pretty basic, the chapter that they're quoting. It's a 1-paragraph deal.
Okay, I'm going to read, or somebody's going to read, maybe Mrs. Donahue's going to read Mass General Law, Chapter 114, Section 27, because it's not very long.
It's not very long. Appointment of Board of Cemetery Commissioners, powers and duties. If a town so votes under Section 21 of Chapter 41, the selectmen shall appoint a Board of Cemetery Commissioners to consist of 3 members to be appointed for the term of 3 years. The Commissioners shall, under the supervision and control of the Selectmen, maintain the public cemeteries in the town, and shall, with the approval of the Selectmen, appoint such employees as are necessary to maintain such cemeteries.
That actually gives them the right to do what they're doing in Article 18. My concern then is the money is coming from the sales of cemetery lots and graves, which I don't have in front of me.
All right, that we have in the prior handout when they appeared before us. We
Yes,
have the
which
balance
oh,
sheets.
sorry, I do have that in front of me.
They gave us ledger sheets,
Yeah, but
and I now have an understanding of the trust count and how the cash flows, and I did verify with the accountant that what was put in front of us is in fact how they run it at the accounting department.
cemetery. Appropriation sales from cemetery lots and graves.
Okay, so that is a cash, unrestricted account. The money can come out of that account by vote of town meeting, so we can use that only for cemetery purposes.
Okay,
So we're good.
so we're good on this. I want to make sure I have this right because this is the problem I had with it when I looked at it last time. To see if the town will vote to, you already read that up there at the top, but it says, be expended by the cemetery commissioners for care, improvement, embellishment, or enlargement. That's covered under chapter 27, correct? Because I'm looking at chapter 27, and I'm not seeing embellishment.
Well, I was just going to say, that's a word that bothers me, because
Me too.
the law is written very broadly, and they've even made this broader.
Okay.
They are appointed to maintain public cemeteries. Improve and embellish,
I made notes last time, so maybe I'm going to refer to you, Mr. Sullivan. I'll make it kind of simple. They were talking about bringing in, I believe, students doing a work program from Upper Cape and/or Wareham. Liability issues. She said they carried their own liability insurance, I believe.
That would be probably if it was an Upper Cape Cod Tech work program.
Okay. And whose direction will these workers be under?
Realistically, they should be, while they would be paid out of the cemetery commissioners, the actual work should be directed by the municipal maintenance department. I could see a little turf fighting over it.
And therein lies my problem. So what I'm trying to say is I'm not saying that. I wanted to clear up the part about the insurance, because these guys are going to come in. I'm assuming they're going to either work with our equipment or equipment they bring, and so there's a liability issue. But if they have their own insurance, that will probably cover that. The problem is I want to know who is directing them, and that's not clearly spelled out. And what you said is exactly my problem with this article, is that I think it needs to be clear under whose supervision. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think.
Because I don't want any turf wars, just to be honest with you.
Yeah, before we had tried to move money into municipal maintenance budget, but it was thought that the municipal maintenance budget would swallow it up and spend it on other items. So that's where I just see, there's, when it's going towards these, currently the person's on leave, that's our cemetery person, but obviously there'd be another person that could do some of the direction. I think there'd almost have to be an MOU spelled out between the cemetery commissioners and the municipal maintenance department.
Okay, because in the chapter 11427, it talks about maintaining the cemetery, and this goes well beyond that as far as care, improvement, embellishment, or enlargement of town cemeteries. I just have a problem with that wording versus of referencing what it says in Mass General Law.
If they just said care, I would be fine with it, but
It's pretty clear, though, in the MGL, the commissioners shall under the supervision and control of the selectmen. So they have the ultimate authority over the commissioners.
I'm okay with that, but again, care, improvement, embellishment, or enlargement of town cemeteries, that's not covered under chapter
For
27.
15 grand, they're not gonna enlarge it
I'm not
very
gonna
much.
embellish or enlarge it much, but we might as well have the fight here rather than town meeting floor.
I guess
so-
my problem is, if you don't word things correctly, you leave doors open to other things. And I'm not saying that there would do anything different, but,
You can change that the way the motion is read.
all right, we can change that on the floor if we have to.
Well, I was just gonna suggest when we write the motion, why don't we talk to town council? Because I think we all understand what the substance of this article is. Again, it's the technicality and the delivery of it, so.
So improvement, enlargement, and embellishment
Read chapter 27.
are, I understand, and I'm saying that those are a bothersome, those are three bothersome words to all of us.
To me, they are.
Okay.
I'm not for everybody, but, I mean, I'm not speaking for everybody, they are for me. That, to me, they go outside the scope of what
Mm-hmm.
Mass General Law says, and therein lies the problem. Any other comments? Yes?
So this is perpetual care, correct? This falls under perpetual care, this 15,000 to cut the grass, clean it up, maintain it.
What do you mean it falls under perpetual care?
Well, if you look on this front page of this, they talk about perpetual care for, when you bury somebody in the ground, you're under the assumption that you don't have to come down and cut the grass around their stone every week. That the people who maintain the cemetery will cut the grass, whack the weeds, sweep the street. So this 15,000 is part of the perpetual care from the cemetery, or is this in addition, they want to do something else with this? Or is this just to cut the grass and to pay the guy to cut the grass?
He's probably doing some of the items that are more laborsome, like the weed whacking, things such as that, and maybe even pruning
Straighten
some of
stones
the,
and-
yeah. I don't know if they'd straighten stone. Some of the historical cemeteries, if one of them touched a stone, they'd probably get stoned themselves, so.
You have to be careful because
If he was
perpetual care
stoned
is a separate fund.
beforehand.
I understand the general term perpetual care, but you have to be careful how you state it because this is coming from sales of cemetery lots and graves. There is an actual perpetual care fund, so we want to be careful how we state it, just so there's no confusion.
So how come we're not using the perpetual care funds to cut the grass and weed whack?
And
Why do
I'll
we
turn
need
that
to
one
use
over to
it?
Mrs. Donahue.
All right.
Okay, go.
There is a perpetual care trust fund. So to the best that I understand it, when you, and that's, we have a fee schedule on the front
Right.
page here. Money goes into that perpetual care trust fund, and we're allowed to use the interest off of that for perpetual care, but we don't actually touch the capital, the principal that's in that account. That is a trust fund.
Right.
Unfortunately, somebody also saw that as a pot of money in the past, and that has been drained down, so there is no more interest at the moment until the interest is reconfigured on the account.
The actual funds are still in there.
The
but
fund
there's
is
no-
intact, the
there's no
fund is
interest.
intact, but the interest,
Yeah, so you'd have the principal fund, and then the interest would then be turned over to another fund, which is the perpetual care interest fund. The interest fund is the one that doesn't have any money left in it. Every year, they're pulling approximately 15,000 out until it went into a deficit. In one of the previous town meetings, we had to put an article to put monies back into that. So we can't, until that builds back up again, we won't have any monies to use out of that. And the way interest is,
Yeah.
you know, you're talking years.
The problem, we went through this, I believe it was 2 years ago, I think is when I had the big issue with it, because there are several accounts and each one has a different set of rules on how you can use them, or there's some generalization to it, but they have basic rules on you can use the interest and how much of this one you can use. So it has to be, I said we would have a lesson on it tonight. We probably will later because it is very complex. It sounds simple, but it's very complex. And we made a mistake a couple years back and we had to transfer money back in because it was pulled from we pulled more money than we had in the account at the time. So, all right.
Right, so that perpetual care trust fund is what would have, could have, should have been being used for some of this. But as Derek pointed out, when interest rates dropped and we weren't getting the same interest off that account, no one really looked carefully to see what the interest balance was. And they just kept sucking off $15,000 at a time until it ran out. So now we're looking to take that money from somewhere else. And we're taking it from an account that we can, but we have to do it through town meeting this way. I'm also bothered by the wording of this article, and I'd like to postpone taking a vote on this at this time.
Well, before we do, let me go over something called Mass General Law 114, subsection 25. Let me go down. The town treasurer shall invest all funds in accordance with the stipulations, and if any, yada yada yada, shall invest them as ordered by said commissioners and pay the income therefrom upon their order or with their approval. The proceeds of the sales of lots or rights of burial in such cemeteries shall be paid into the town treasury and be appropriated to reimburse the town for the cost of the land, its care, improvement, embellishment, and or enlargement of the cemetery. So they've taken basically section 25 as the explanation, but called it chapter 27. That's really what we're looking at here.
Okay.
I mean,
So 25 gives them the right to embellish.
well, yes, it does. They can embellish and they can enlarge. Now you're right. We're arguing over $15,000. It's not really worth the time or the effort, but I just want to make sure it's like referencing one portion of Mass General Law when it really came from another portion. You have to be careful with these things. You don't want to lose an article because you have something written wrong in it. Does that make sense?
Right. Because the substance of the article is correct. Let's get it done right. So
All right, let's hold this one, or do you want to hold this one? Or?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, and sort of at the high level, do we need the help? Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we need the
Yeah.
help. I don't think there's
Yeah.
anybody there are some issues at our cemeteries and they're not getting to them, and this allows them to use the money to maintain the cemetery. Simple as that.
We want to see it get done, but we want to make sure it gets done the right way so it doesn't get kicked back and get you in trouble later on.
Hopefully you can get that as a Scribner's error instead of out of the four corners, you know, the
Yeah.
25 versus
That they're
27.
quoting, I mean, even
Yeah.
if they included the rights are provided by Mass General Law 1114, section 25 and section
that actually-
27.
We'll
Is that what
talk
you're
about
saying?
this later. We have
All right.
enough on this.
Well, so in order to keep the good vibrations flowing, let's go to Article 19. And I need someone to retract a motion in a second. Who made the motion?
Did we make a motion?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
You need to retract your
I
second.
retract my motion on my second.
You can't. He did the second,
Okay.
didn't
Yes, it
was-
I did it,
he? Yeah.
I retract my second.
I retract my motion.
All right, on to Article 19, cemetery repairs.
To see if the town will vote to transfer from
I thought that was
receipts
key.
reserved for appropriation, sales of cemetery lots and graves, a sum of money to be expended by the cemetery commissioners for the cemetery building repairs, subject to the approval of the Board of Selectmen, as provided by General Law, Chapter 114, Section 27, or to take any action relative thereto. Can we just discuss this before we motion?
Yeah, let's just discuss this. Is it still 90,000? Obviously, this is because of the amount, it's a capital, correct?
Correct.
All right, any questions?
So this is the 90,000 one?
Yep.
So we're going to reduce the article on regular town meeting.
Correct.
This is a capital item.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is seeking the permission and the funding in one article. That's how we had talked with Attorney Bowen to draw it up.
Okay.
Do you ever have to put anything subject to chapter, to procurement law?
No,
You have
no.
to put that in
No,
there?
because everything's always subject to
Yeah.
I know.
procurement law. You shouldn't have to say that.
That was just my, any
No,
questions?
it's more, it's whether I ever want a job or anything like that is really when it comes down to procurement.
Yeah,
Good.
my question is this, I don't know, we've talked back and forth about this, he talked about, you know, having, you know, one of the schools do this, et cetera, so we're talking $90,000 at this point for this particular item.
This is the estimate. It hasn't gone out to bid. We haven't done any of the true, I don't know whether necessarily you do the engineering on it or what, but this is the estimate for it. It's another one of the buildings we've let go, and as you don't maintain them, as you let them get dilapidated, it costs more when you're looking to fix them. At one point, they were looking at maybe just bulldozing the whole thing down and being done with it. But this is something that the municipal maintenance department does feel that is a viable asset for their uses.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
So municipal maintenance will be using this building?
Correct.
So, and can they take this out of the cemetery funds? Municipal maintenance, can they tap these funds?
Yeah, this is the cemetery commissioners asking to be able to use this fund for one of the shed isn't a building on their property. But municipal maintenance uses it because they're the ones that will maintain the cemeteries and such. So it's all within the cemetery care and maintenance.
And what is this building? Is it brick, is it wood, what is it?
I think it's a cinder block building.
Yeah. Yeah, and it stores their equipment, which includes the tent that they use it for burials, as far as the machinery that they use as well, so.
What size is this building?
I didn't hear.
What
What
size?
size?
Oh, I don't know.
It's not a
That's-
huge building, though. You can see it when you go out, what's the name of that road going out to Tahonet? Tahonet Road?
Yeah.
Hunt Road, Farm to Market Road.
It's on the left, right? That's the one on the left, as, in the cemetery, as you go in, I think it's the second entrance into the cemetery, you can see it. It's in pretty bad shape. It's just never been maintained properly.
So it needs a new roof, all new cinder blocks.
Yeah, I don't know if it needs all the cinder blocks, but all the structural work and such.
Would we be better off going for a $50,000 modular metal building? Knock it down and put a metal building up?
You'd have to speak, that's when Mr. Menard,
Yeah.
when you're speaking with him, those are the questions you should ask. You know, I should know about them, but I know the finances and whether taking it down, rebuilding it, that's, you know, look, I always say when I swing a hammer, the nail goes sideways, so don't ask me about that stuff.
I guess when we get to this point, this is where we have to distinguish between, I mean, we can ask the question, but the reality is that when we put the 90,000 out there, they may decide that they can do it for a $50,000 building, a new building, and it's still gonna be covered under this.
Yeah, I guess one of the things, and I'm sorry to interrupt, is we get no joy from expending more money. It may not seem like, let me put it out there.
You get a new building, come on.
If something costs $50,000, I don't understand why people think we want to spend 60 on it. We really don't. If we didn't have to pay prevailing wage, I'd be happy. If we didn't have to do all these things, so, you know, that's, none of us like spending more money because it takes money away from the budget that you can use for other items, so.
Not in this case.
What's
That
that?
money is locked into,
It's just
For what they
cemeteries.
can,
Correct.
they can work on. But maybe there was other things that they could potentially do, so.
In this particular case, because the article is for a specific use,
Yeah.
then whatever isn't expended would have to be returned to that fund.
Right.
All right.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Actually, we don't have
What
a
a
motion.
motion.
All right,
I
let's-
move favorable action on Article 19.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstain? Now we're back to 7-0-0. Will you handle Article 20 for me, Mrs. Donahue? I have to step outside for a minute.
Are we going to do these as CPC articles?
We've already done them. She's come and talked to us about these.
Oh, that's right, because she told us ahead of time.
They've already talked to us about them. We just didn't vote on them.
Okay.
And why we have Mr. Sullivan here, we want to just, we're trying to get as much as we can out of them. Overtime.
So we're not doing the CPC article?
No, yes, we are, because actually we'd already spoken and,
I'll be back by the vote.
okay. Mrs. Cattouli, would you like to read Article 20, please?
To see if the town will vote to appropriate from the Community Preservation Unallocated Fund or any other monies available in the Community Preservation Fund under the category of open space recreation, the sum of $29,000 for Wareham Little League Field Complex restoration or to take any action relative thereto.
May I have a motion on Article 20?
I move favorable action on Article 20.
Second.
Okay. Discussion.
Yeah,
Jeff.
we had talked about, the need to worry about, you know, how is this gonna be maintained after it's restored? And who's in charge of keeping that, or monitoring that situation? Does that go to, who's made that agreement, I guess I should
The guy
say?
that's running the Little League is.
Yeah, I think Little League maintains the fields and all those items, so.
So did CPC make an agreement with the, you know, like this parameters with the grant that they needed to, you know, it was gonna be maintained afterwards, or?
I don't think they have even that restriction. I know that, they monitor a project till a project's finished. Once a project's complete, then they sign off on it. Any funds that are left over get returned to CPC. As far as maintaining it in the future, CPC can't do anything with that because you can't use CPC funds to maintain something. I don't think they, keep up with them as far as, you know, checking on them or anything like that. That's really gonna be up to the Little League as to how they're going to maintain it in the future.
Yeah, I see. I think that's where my rub comes in a little bit, is that we can't use these funds as maintenance funds.
No.
So that if we're gonna, if we as a town, or the CPC, however you want to put it, is making a grant to rebuild something, we want to make sure that it's not, you know, in lieu of maintenance. And if we're gonna rebuild it, it's gonna, they see some program, or they see some, funds that are, you know, obviously the Little League must have a budget, and they're planning on taking care of this field after it gets restored. That's the only thing that I would wanna see, is that we don't take on reclamation projects and then do it to a,
Every 3 years.
or to pick another field every year, and we're just gonna keep rebuilding it, and once they need it again, we're just gonna keep rebuilding it. There's just, you know, that we'd wanna have them.
Put that schedule together.
Yeah, we'd wanna see that, you know, I know that, I was involved once when they did a church, and, you know, they had to prove to us that they had the membership and the capability of having trust funds spin off the interest, whatever, to maintain this building after it was, you know, after it was restored. Did an incredible restoration on it, but now who's gonna maintain it? And they made sure that there was a vehicle in place to do that. So
Because my understanding is what this field is this was pretty much reclaimed land that may or may not have been a
Landfill,
dumping
yeah.
site at one time.
It was a landfill.
It was a landfill. Okay, I was trying to be nice. And what's happened is the topsoil has degraded to the point that, you know, there's trash coming up through it, and that's a dangerous factor.
Actually, glass.
Actually, glass coming right up to it. So, I mean, this is really an improvement to upgrade it back to what it was to start with. And hopefully, you know, that will be a fix to the problem, and they can maintain it from thereafter. But I don't think CPC obviously isn't gonna police them on that, whether they do or they don't. It is a legitimate use of CPC funds. Take it for what it's worth.
I think that's that's my problem. I'm not doubting the need, I'm not doubting the danger, I'm just saying that we want to make sure that we set a precedent with CPC funds that, you know, where the members of that committee have been satisfied that, the money that they put out is gonna be maintained.
I think you can
I
ask
don't
for
think I
that,
wanna
but
touch-
don't-
Not
I don't think
about-
you're gonna
I
get
don't think I
that
wanna touch that
satisfaction.
one.
I think that's a wonderful idea, but I doubt you're gonna get that satisfaction.
In
Okay.
this particular
Unfortunately,
case,
you're not gonna
because-
get that
Not from,
satisfaction.
not from CPC,
Not
you're
from
not.
CPC.
Well, is there a lease agreement on the field, or
I-
is it a
again,
town-owned field?
I agree that
I
there
have no
needs to be, that question needs to be asked. As far as CPC holding them accountable for having future maintenance, the way CPC works, and this is my understanding, is that if someone applies and they meet the criteria, it's up for them, it's not up to them to vote whether or not they want to, they met the criteria, so they're going to put it through as a CPC article.
Yeah, I didn't, and by the way, I didn't say for the CPC to
Oh, okay.
oversee.
My
What I
problem.
was saying is that the CPC is satisfied that there are plans in place and that they've seen evidence that there's a plan in place to do this. I'm not saying that they would.
Mrs. Donahue.
I like Jeff's idea.
I
I
do
don't think
too.
it's necessarily applicable in this particular case where we're only replacing dirt, basically. But there have been other projects in town that could have benefited from that wisdom had it been brought up ahead of time. So I think that is something that we should be very cognizant of going forward with CPC projects, that yes, that we have to make an assumption that there's oversight there with contractors, because that's more detail than we can get involved with. That's really incumbent on CPC to do that. But yeah, I think probably we should be asking that question.
I think it's a very valid question, and I think regardless if you want to vote tonight, or we can, but that question needs to be asked on town meeting floor.
And that should probably be a question that we ask of every CPC project
I
that comes
agree.
forward.
I think it
mean,
should. Any other questions or comments? Does the committee still feel like voting on this article?
I'm
No?
not suggesting not voting on it, but I'd like to.
Pardon me?
I'm not suggesting
No,
not to
but
vote on it.
well, that's the
but
question
I'd
I'm
like
asking.
I'd like to get it, maybe if we can get an answer the next
Okay.
time we see them, if that's part of their protocol.
I'm happy to vote on the article because of the specific project, the scope of this project, and the low dollar amount.
I will bring this up to Angela Dunham. I will ask her about this because I think it's something that I don't know that we've overlooked it. I think the question may have been asked somewhere in the process, but it still needs to be asked more frequently than we are. All right.
Can I ask where this is?
Pardon me?
Can I have the address of where this is?
It's off of,
It's out Charge Pond Road,
it's on Charge Pond Road across, well, you know where the YMCA is?
Yep.
Right across the
just
street.
beyond it and the left. Bring your sliding pants.
All right, do you want to vote?
Yeah.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Me.
That's one. All those abstain. So that would be 6-1. Article 21, Mrs. Cattouli.
To see if the town will vote to appropriate from the Community Preservation Unallocated Fund or any other monies available in the Community Preservation Fund under the category of Historic Preservation, the sum of $25,000 to complete the preservation of the Old Town offices or to take any action relative thereto.
I move favorable action on Article 21.
Second?
Any discussion or comments? We discussed this one, yes.
We discussed this before. This is the one that they had the,
This is the painting that's stalled that needs to be,
This
We
is the
looked at before the painting
WCTV
had
building,
resumed.
correct?
yep.
All right, and no more questions? All those in favor?
aye.
All those opposed? All those abstain, 7-0-0.
I got to abstain because on WCTV.
All right, so 6-0-1. Article 22, Mrs. Cattouli.
To see if the town will vote to appropriate from the Community Preservation Affordable Housing Reserve Fund or any other monies available in the Community Preservation Fund, the sum of $35,000 to provide safe flooring to the elderly and handicapped residents of Agawam Village or to take any action relative thereto.
This was cleared up through town council, correct?
Yeah, I think There should have been some that were taken out because he wasn't.
I don't,
The steps are taken out.
yeah,
But the floor was,
no, the floor is part of the structure.
Right.
Which
So-
made it eligible for the funding.
okay.
Yes,
Yeah, my concern is that the floor is asbestos tile. It's not a matter of people falling through the floor. And I think it's a maintenance thing, and there's part of a much larger contribution from the state on this whole project. And they come up with their money and do it, and then come back to us if they don't get their money. That's the way I feel about it. Not that the money is not available in CPC funds to do it, I just think that they're asking us to sign up before they've signed up. They've got to spend over $300,000, I
Right.
guess, on this area.
right, and they're asking for us to contribute 35,000 against the entire budget. And your concern, just so I'm understanding, is not that they're gonna rip out the flooring, it's just that it's asbestos flooring.
No, my concern is that the flooring is sort of like painting the wall versus if the floor had failed and people are falling through the joists, then it's a restoration project. There's maintenance, restoration, and one other term that they use. And you can't do the maintenance. And
I think the legal thing was whether or not.
as if
was
the
part
building
of the
was gonna fall
structure.
down, yeah.
Okay,
And from the pictures I saw, I think it's just a matter of some cracked tiles. So that's why I'm
Any
I'm
comment?
gonna vote against
I
it.
know you look tired.
No. I don't know, are they just seeking, is this seed money for the state grant, is this?
Yeah, it's a much bigger state
Yeah,
deal.
so.
All right, explain that to me. You guys, you two are going back and forth as if you know what's going on and we don't, okay?
No, this is what they talked about. Nobody,
No, I mean, she talked about, that there's a larger project going on, okay? But I
Right.
think we need to know, and town meeting is gonna wanna know, if this is a state, program and they're asking us to seed part of it, then that we need to understand. I'm angry over the whole situation at Agawam, that we even have to expend town money to take care of that situation, when the state should have been doing it a long time ago.
You're right.
That's been a thorn in my side for a long time. So I just, if
Okay.
there is a bigger project going on and 35,000 is just a part of that, that's what's gonna be asked on the floor. And if I'm confused by it, then so is everybody else in the room.
yeah, I think she told us the total expenditure the last time she talked to us, and this is just a portion of the money, just a very small, I think it was less than 10% of the
I'm not
money.
finding that.
Yeah, you guys have probably had more interviews on this than I have.
Yeah, I'll go back through the
Let's get
notes.
clarification on that, because
Yeah, let's just leave that one be for now.
I
I'll-
was expecting to see, it was spoken about, but I was expecting to see or hear more specifics to it.
I could probably go back
Bonnie
to.
has something I never saw before, so now I'm
Oh,
really jealous.
I'm sorry, I think you weren't here.
Mr. Chairman, I would
Man.
suggest on both of these articles, that we request the Housing Authority, because that's really where, we shouldn't have to have CPC come in and do their bidding. Let's talk to them about what's going on.
You want the housing authority? I'll see if I can schedule them for next week. All right. Let's do, do we need to retract any motions or seconds on this?
But, by the way, the same principle is, that I talked about on the Little League issue is in here too. That's why I'm.
Well, see, now
I don't
here's-
look like I was picking it apart.
Here's the problem I have with this one, is they're clearly not maintaining it now.
That's right.
And they're, whether or not, whatever the reason, and I don't want to get into reasons because I think there's several different.
Failure of management.
Okay, well, whether or not that's what it is or not,
Don't shoot
just go ahead, Tom, just wear it out there for me. Whether or not that's the issue or not, they are now trying to maintain it, and it's under different management, if that answers your question. But I agree. Let's see if we can get someone from Housing Authority to come in and explain to us this project. All right.
This was just heard, this was her original explanation. This was about the stoops, and the stoops were.
No, that was a
put together.
different
That was
article.
pulled.
That was pulled.
Okay.
This doesn't say anything about it being part of a larger grant. It's just $35,000 to provide
Okay.
safe flooring. So I think we need clarification on that.
All right.
I would volunteer to contact somebody in housing and go over and look at the goddamn place.
Did I hear you say you
You
volunteered?
just can't make it any plainer than that, Tom. Okay,
You wanna table
we'll
that
make
one?
sure that happens. I'll put you in contact with the right person from the Housing Authority to talk to. We'll make sure that happens. I'll put that on my list for tomorrow. Let's go on to Article 24, Mrs. Clerk.
To see if the town will vote to approve the transfer of funds from the Water Pollution Control Facility Enterprise Certified Retained Earnings Account to the Water Pollution Control Facility Enterprise Expense Budget Account for the purpose of purchasing and installing a grease treatment process known as
Go ahead, say it.
Grisella.
Priscilla!
Grisella
Little Oyster Cult just came into my mind.
into the treatment facility to treat waste, fats, oils, and grease, also known as commercial waste, or to take any action relative thereto.
I saw Greasilla, it was dubbed over, and it didn't match up.
Do we have a dollar figure on this?
Are we gonna talk about this when
Let's
Mr.
just talk
Campina
about
comes in?
Do we have a dollar figure on this?
We can
No.
talk about this when,
400,000 is what the paper says.
Yeah, 400,000 is the approximate cost.
Mr. Sullivan's here. I know that he's coming in to talk about it, but my concern with this article is it's asking to transfer it to the purpose of installing, wait a minute. Transfer the sum of it, and if you say 400,000, I'll believe you. From the Water Pollution Control Facility Enterprise Certified Retained Earnings to the Water Pollution Control Facility Enterprise Expense Budget.
Yeah, it should be,
That's not right.
yeah, they'll probably have to, it really should be a line in there, so when we do it in the motion, I think we can get it into the line.
You guys want to hold this article till next week while we have him in here? We can talk about Greasella and all the rest of the, great.
Yeah, we'll hold it, but I mean, this whole grease project was supposed to increase revenue, but now it's gonna cost $400,000?
Well,
The 4-year payback, that
Just
it
let,
said in the
I'm
paper.
just throwing
It-
that
it
out
is-
there.
it is going to increase revenues, but it's also going to, I mean, it's a payback period. This should take care of itself relatively quickly considering the amount of the equipment.
Okay.
But we can have him talk about it because I think it'd be safer to have him can discuss. I don't know if it'd be safer to have Mr.
I am
Campina
not
discuss
saying
it.
Greasella on top.
Do you want to wait?
With Guy's passion, book a light hour.
Yeah. Yeah, I was hoping to get out by 9:30 that night, so.
Okey-dokey.
Well, we'll still hold it for next week. I agree with you. Article 25 is of great interest to some of us, so please, Mrs. Cattouli.
To see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to lease the property formerly known as the Boys and Girls Club, as further described in the filing in the town clerk's office, for a period of up to 20 years upon such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen deems appropriate, or to take any action relative thereto.
You want to tell us about this building?
Yeah,
Because there's going to be some questions, just so you know.
Yeah, currently I think that's used by the some of the cooperative school, and it's also the cooperative school's right behind it. They have their weightlifting in this building right now, which is probably they will have to move, which is probably why me, the overweight town administrator, sponsoring moving the weightlifting club out of there isn't the best look. But this is to what we're looking to do is move Wareham Community TV into that building to have it for their new structure. So.
Go ahead. I want to start over there. Yes.
Where is this building? What is this building?
Yeah, if you go down to the middle school and you go directly across, it's the building there.
And right now, what's in it? Just that weightlifting group?
Weightlifting, and the Boys and Girls Club had started to use it, and then when they went over to Hammond, it reverted back. So the school's been using it. It is a town building, and it's technically in the custody and care of the town.
And the Boys and Girls Clubs want to go back there?
No.
No, this is Wareham Community TV.
Oh.
To use this as their new station. The location is
I get it.
excellent because if we remember, part of Wareham Communities TV's mission is education. So when they update that facility, as well as creating rooms that we can use for meetings, for televised meetings and such. Also, I won't put any words in their mouth, but would I think that we could have some training for some of the computer training, such for some of the adults in this community? That's what I would be pushing for personally. So.
Next. Anyone else?
Is the alternative school doing other things besides weightlifting? Don't they have classrooms or?
Yeah, but
functions?
they're able to move out of there, so that's not necessarily what we need. There's other spaces that we could use
Within
for
the
them.
schools that
Yeah.
they can use. I would just, and I will do this, got to describe it differently than the Boys and Girls Club. That's
Yeah.
just,
Right.
you know,
Need to
even
know
as
that.
further described in a filing at the town clerk's office.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to put a big fix that here, and I'll come up with a better legal description for you, because that won't fly.
Yeah, we tried to find the lot and plat, and it's part of the overall, so it's, unless we spray paint it pink and say the pink building, it's a
Middle
little
school
difficult.
annex building.
I don't recall the school. Was the school in control of this building at one point?
We cannot locate where it was actually, the school was actually in control of this.
It's originally municipal maintenance building, is it not?
It was a garage of some sort.
Okay, so you got multiple problems here. You can't find where they took control of it, and you really can't find at that point where you got it back, correct?
We can't ever prove that they actually, besides, like right now, they've had to ask permission to use that building from the town. So by asking permission, it doesn't turn it over to them.
And they're okay with this, as far
Yeah.
as,
I'm exceptionally feisty tonight over this one.
go for it.
I went by and saw the building. Who fixed it up?
Inside of there was the
Yes.
Boys and Girls Club.
The Boys and Girls Club fixed it up? Because it looks a lot different than when they were in there.
They did work in there, is my understanding.
The weight people, the high school
Okay,
students
And
themselves.
you're going to
yeah.
lease this to WCTV.
correct.
So there's a dollar amount,
There will be.
and it's not been determined.
No.
And what will happen to the property that they're currently in?
Which brings
Huh.
me back to the last question.
Yeah.
What happens
Sorry,
to the
didn't mean to
property that-
interrupt you, I couldn't see you.
No, that's okay, because
Huh?
my logic was working slow, so you just
All
sped
right.
it up for me.
Well, you would try and lease that out as well.
That would be the one that we're going to have to paint now.
Right.
Sorry, got my P in right in front of me.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. So let me get this straight. We're going to move them into another building, and we're still putting all this money into the other building as well.
Yeah, we'd have to no matter what.
All right.
I mean, that's a historical building, so.
Sorry.
Any more questions? Yes, please.
Okay, on that, so they're gonna lease it, but if there's something wrong with it, it falls on the town to fix it. In other words, if they find that the roof is leaking or whatever, we're liable to.
Depends on the what you do in the lease.
Mm.
We're liable to
Well,
fix it anyways,
exactly.
we own it, but yeah.
We own the building, so even though they say, okay, you'll fix this, so that will be in the, but we have no guarantee. It's up to the selectmen to make that policy decision,
No,
right?
No, it depends on however the lease is written.
which is
Who
our
writes
legal
the lease?
counsel.
I would, with legal counsel.
Ah, okay,
So if it goes wrong, you yell at me.
I will.
I don't think
line
we're
it
gonna
up.
have a problem with that one. Anybody else? Okay. I'll entertain a motion and a second on Article 25, and the description's going to have to change.
So moved.
So moved?
So moved, yeah.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstain, 700. Article 26, I believe there's been a change already in that one. And this article has got a problem because it sounds like it's described as all the liquor licenses are going to Rosebrook.
Yeah, the selectmen are going to change that, but there would be 2 for Rosebrook and 2 others. I believe one for the Lobster Pot restaurant, and one in the Robertson's property before Walmart, I believe, where there's potentially a business that could be coming in.
That's a good question.
Yes.
So, the alcohol licensing board, or whatever you call them these days, they're still being very, district-specific as to where you're putting licenses?
Yeah, they want location. So
Yeah, by location.
we couldn't just, they aren't approving right now. If we just said, hey, give us 5 licenses, we want to hold on to them, and as businesses come forward, they want no sort of site specific.
They have to be, now, what happens, when do they stay site-specific or neighborhood-specific as to which ended up? Like, if something goes out of business and it reverts back to the town at this point, so now you've got 4 and one comes back that's loose, does it have to be in that particular district area?
Yeah, it's going to really depend on how the legislation writes it. I think Captain Al's restaurant has one of the all season that's site specific, so it can only ever go to them. They go out of business, and nobody buys that building and uses it as a bar or anything like that. You can't transfer that. You'd have to then go to them to ask them to transfer that to somewhere else. So.
Now, is there a reason why they're doing that with certain towns but they don't in other towns?
I don't know. My understanding is this is something they want to know where the location's going to be. If it says a site specific or just for that one, then you have particularly site specific, but they still want to know a location. So there's kind of 2 things you're talking about. One is site specific and one is location. If we're asking them for a liquor license saying the establishment's going to be located at a place, it's not the same as saying that's going to be site specific. So it depends on how it's going to go through with them. I know that sounds confusing. It is.
It does sound confusing, but they're doing it differently in other cities and towns where they are issuing licenses that are town-wide or city-wide. I just feel like, are they doing it in specific towns or specific areas that they're being, more random than, like, say if we were in a big city and they said, okay, we're gonna give you 5 more licenses because it's a city. So I'm just curious.
I don't
as to
know
what
if it's
they're
by per
thinking.
capita, if it's how many you already have compared to other towns and such. I really don't know.
I'm gonna eat Dominic's truck because he's not coming.
Well, it's actually, I've done a lot of work with ABC in the past, and usually it's, you have your allotment based on population, and then if you go after that, you'll get a blanket number, and you can say for economic development of these areas. But then it's up to the selectmen after they have their hearings to decide what's best for the community, and then you send it to ABC for their approval. But I haven't.
This is special legislation.
Right.
Because to get more.
That's right.
So this is a different animal.
No, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
Because the ultimate authority is within the town. The town controls, that's one thing they control, is where they want the liquor establishments. But, I mean, if our state reps should be filing on our behalf saying that they have areas that they need to create
Right.
economic development, we want X number of licenses.
We try to put one every 4th house, just so you know. I'm sorry. Nothing.
No, but anyway, but yeah, I would just try to narrow it down to, future development areas, if anything. I wouldn't want to narrow it down, any further, because you need to have the flexibility to move it around.
What's the parameters are going to change on this article? Just the number of licenses?
Yeah, I think the one you have says Rosebrook, so it'd
Right.
be it would add 2 licenses and give sort of a background of where they thought they'd be going into.
Right, but is that general enough? Because they're just going, they're
I
not,
don't know, I've got all scratched out here. It
Yeah,
says scratched
it's
out
4.
2, and it says 4 over the side. So, what am I looking at? Am I looking at 2 or 4?
2 Rosebrook and 2 on other locations.
Oh, I gotcha.
We should be able to get a quick answer on that from, you know,
we'll see town council tomorrow, so.
yeah, but I'm in favor of anything that the selectmen can have in their pocket to, you know, increase to, you know, make a
This-
development.
Why this helps with our development is if you have a liquor license available for a spot already, it's attractive to a developer or to the company that's coming in because they know they don't have to wait for that. They know there's one already available. So that's sort of the carrot to get some development as well.
Okay, do you want to just vote on it tonight, because we know that the parameters is 4,
Mhm.
and then anything in their specific language is not going to change the intent of the article. Does that meet with everybody's needs?
Yeah, anything that makes the article pass the State House.
Okay.
you know.
I'll entertain a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
We had 2 seconds, so we had actually a 4th. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 700. Okay, that completes what we can do on the special town meeting warrant. We got one, Mr. Campina's not here tonight, which, considering the hour, thank you. I like Guy, he's,
Were you waiting for him?
no, we weren't waiting for him, we knew he wasn't coming. Yes, that's next. Article 10, we're going to discuss the appropriation from EMS. Everybody should have a sheet in front of them with the funding EMS totals with the change from year to year.
Yeah, if you look on the first one, you'll see, no, the EMS director is not making 400 and almost 69,000. I just didn't have the breakout today of everybody's salary when I sort of put this together, so it was easy enough to lump sum it.
Heck of a pay cut there, good job.
No, but in the salary, what I want to focus in are the 2 items, the part-time on-call and the overtime. You'll see a reduction of the overtime of 20,000, but an increase in the part-time on-call of 108,000. Now, two issues we're trying to solve here. One is reducing the overtime. It may actually end up reducing more. But we're also, when we get the second ambulance in, trying to staff that other ambulance. And instead of hiring additional people at a cost, is using the on-call persons. We really are looking forward to bringing in more revenue with those ambulances and having the on-call people available for it. We think that will be a major help. If we were to staff a second ambulance fully with full-time people, I couldn't see us really affording that right now. So,
Before we get into questions, you have $1,277 and there's no animal there.
yeah, that's longevity.
Okay. I just want to make that clear.
That was in there for the previous year, but it's part of the lump sum at the time.
And we have the new ambulance?
No, we still don't have the new ambulance. We've been waiting on the chassis from I think I think it's the Dodge on there, but the 2014 chassis we've been in line with. So
What's the new date of arrival?
yeah, I'll double check on that because I'm not going to try and overestimate it like apparently I have. So
All right, questions?
Brenda. Well, on that part, I guess we're good on that.
On what part?
On the personnel, I mean, if you're talking about, I see a huge increase in repairs and maintenance, so the idea is to keep up with the equipment rather than letting it fall apart?
Plus, we have a second ambulance.
yeah, well, the second ambulance really shouldn't have too many of the repairs and maintenance, but yeah, what I should do is try and take the year to date on the repairs and maintenance. I know we've already gone well over that this year.
Okay.
So we're trying to bring that more in line and again, still run the 2 ambulances and such.
Will this also keep us from giving up some of our business to surrounding communities?
That's the goal. It's to keep that business. Although the one sort of fallacy I want to get through is When you see the Marion ambulance going to the hospital, it doesn't necessarily mean that they took one of our patients. They do have to drive through Wareham to get to Toby Hospital.
I saw Bonnie the other
we
day
charge them for
following
that?
him.
Yeah,
She was following him just to stop him and see whether that was a Wareham resident.
yeah.
outside
Let
of
me
it.
check an ID, right?
So the expenses are pretty much self-explanatory, except for other purchase services.
Other purchase services, when we do the medical calling in, it's routed through the Barnstable Sheriff's Office. They have never charged us before. We are now going to be charged by them. In fact, it's gone into a legal issue with us because we've told them to go fly a kite, and unfortunately, it's they do have a little bit of. I won't get too far deep into it, but looks like
They're
we're
flying a kite, right?
yeah, it's a nice, big, beautiful kite. So the cost on that is approximately $20,000. It can vary because it's based on the amount of calls you do. So right now, I think we're averaging between $1,500 to $1,800 a month is what they're billing us.
Okay.
The
Questions?
telephone gets routed through Barnstable,
Yeah. So
the
when they
911?
It's not the 911. Whenever they have to call for a doctor to go for the hospitals, it's routed through them. So, and they're the regional one. We have no other choice. I know
Mr.
there's some acronym for it or something. I just can't think of it.
Kite. It's K-I-T-E. Go ahead.
Wait, how's the revenue running?
This year I think through January 31st, we're at approximately 690,000, which would equal about 1.184 for the year.
Free cash.
Yep. So yeah, that goes over to free cash. Now you'll see that for FY15 we would be eating up more of that, but we do anticipate having the second ambulance and having more of the on-call staff is making that up. Now we're still going to have. I honestly can't give you the true number of what that difference is going to be. I know Dave has estimated anywhere from up to 200,000, but until we run it for a full year with the two ambulances, we really won't know.
The $770,000 does not include medical, health care,
No, it does not.
or pension.
No.
No.
What would be the gross number there? Another
You gave
40%?
that to me at one point.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out.
It wasn't much because most of them had insurance through their spouses or.
Yeah, we had single or through the
Yeah.
other spouses, which we're lucky on this group. That isn't the norm by far. So we'd have to look through
David
it.
said it was about 55,000.
55 or
Yeah.
something.
Seemed
I
pretty
wanted-
low.
So it is low because if you had 8 people taking the health insurance with the family plan, you'd probably be looking at closer to 96,000 just the health alone. So
This
And
used-
pension?
and pension. Here's the interesting thing about pension. Try and nail down what the person actually represents in the retirement number that they cannot tell you. No one can. If they're 11%er, technically they do not cost anything. If they're a 7%er, take 4% of what technically I think 14% of their salary is. So it's Tom. Go ahead. I usually just put everybody's salary together that we have for the retirement contribution and divide by that. That's the number that I've been using. So
Back it up again. Say that again.
So I take everybody that's eligible for Plymouth County retirement that's currently an employee, take all their salary, and then I divide it by our pension assessment, basically. So that's usually how I'm trying to find the salary per person.
Which is?
What's our pension assessment?
The pension assessment is I don't have the number in front of me.
Okay.
So I think it's a little over $3 million, about 3.2 or 3.3. And part of the schools do have the retirement contribution. Some of them don't. Approximately, we use 41% of the schools of the retirement contribution is to the school, so you'd take that out as well. So If you want to know, I can put it together, but on right now, I can't tell you.
And the pension is under,
If you're asking, is it going to make money this year? The question,
so
the
it looks a
answer is
little bit like
yes.
break even.
So if you took 55,000 and added that to the 33, you're at 988. So let's even say that the pension was and everything was an additional 40,000. Call it $1.2 million, and they're projecting out at about 1.18. If every one of my departments could give me $160,000, I'd kiss them.
That wouldn't look good.
That's sexual harassment, I don't think you can do that. The line item for retirement contribution, $3,170,000
Yeah, 3,170,000. So.
for this year.
But it should be, if we were funding,
It's not an enterprise fund.
It's not it's not an it was at one point an
Yeah.
enterprise fund, but they took it off because at that point in time, they were not able to generate enough money to cover all their costs, including the benefits. So that's why they decided to vote out, I believe, the enterprise fund. Is that correct?
So here's sort of the answer for everybody that's wondering. If somebody wanted to take over the EMS service, they're going to have to pay the town a substantial amount of money.
At least $160,000 a year.
So,
'Cause that's what we,
I
last
mean, if
year,
you wanted to sell it to a private contractor.
yeah, anybody.
And if it were an enterprise fund, that money would have to stay within the enterprise fund. You'd have
Right.
your retained earnings
Right,
there.
so you
Whereas
wouldn't-
what happens is it kicks over to us.
Yeah.
It comes into the general fund, so it's our free cash. It's our biggest source of free cash
this year it was.
this year.
And if you remember, for 2 years, the previous year when we brought 2 years worth of it together, it represent close to 600,000 of our free cash. So
This capital lease payment, is that for the new one, or this
Yes.
is the old ambulance?
no, the last time we spent money on the ambulance was in '06.
Okay, so this 80,000
Yeah.
is for the new one.
Yep.
help me with the pension. By
Tom, I'll speak to you
we're
about the
under-
pension
we're
after.
under-
Wait.
We're underfunding the pension, but we're going to try to catch up at an accelerating rate up through 2030, is that right, or 2032?
If we want to talk about the pension, let's do it for another night, or you can come by the
Yeah, it's
office.
a long
Tom.
discussion. What is the main point? Get to the main point.
Well, the main point is that if we're saying the pension is 33,150,000 or whatever she said, that is not a full pension load, because we're underfunding the pension requirement.
Okay, but let's go back to the article, because that's what we're trying to do tonight, is the article. We can have a pension discussion another time. So get it to the article. That's where I'm.
Fine.
No, I'm asking, can you relate it to what you're saying?
No, I can't, because I
Because it doesn't, okay.
don't know the answer. I don't know.
I guess my point is,
I agree
Huh?
with what you're talking, yeah, I see what you're saying.
I understand the question, but I'm just trying to understand. I mean, are you trying to say whether or not it makes money? Is that the overall question?
The overall question is to understand what a fully funded cost of this thing is, what EMS is.
And if it
Fully
was an
funded.
enterprise fund, I would agree with you, but
But it's
because it's not, the town gets,
Well, the fund's
these-
coming from someplace.
well, I understand that, but, you know, I agree, somewhere along the line, that had been done, and I believe it needs to be done again, just to show the true actual cost. I agree with that.
It's just that the horizon of benefit plans and pension is what's killing us,
Oh, I agree.
looking out into the future, because it's running faster than 2.5%.
Right, but the article we're voting on is based on these numbers here.
Okay.
That's all. I understand the pension thing, and believe me, it's the biggest headache we got. But we're voting on the numbers that are here because that's actually buried in our pension and benefits numbers. And I would be, based on just from the eye test, that they're not the biggest issue we have. EMS is not the biggest pension issue we have out there. I think it's, I mean, as far as, are
There are
they,
9 employees out of however many employees we got.
right, but the biggest portion's coming from the school, am I correct?
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
the school, if it's 41%, they've got, what, about 300 employees there, say? I think
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
So, all right, so let's get back to this. So these are the numbers we're voting on tonight. The 1,086,270. And we did have a second in the motion, did we? Nope?
I forget.
All right. We need a motion for Article 10, appropriation to the E EMS.
So the number we're looking at is 1,086,270,
86,270.
right?
Right.
Okay. I'll move favorable action on Article 10 with that number.
Second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstain? Do we want to include this in an addendum as well? I'm just addenduming you to death, or can we put it as a, it has, you know, it gives a number. I think the more information we give people, the,
Yeah,
is that okay with you?
yeah, if they want that, because they're really only voting salary and expenses, but that's sure what everybody is, yeah.
go on our 401k system.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. But I mean, we'll discuss that later. All right, so that's really Article 10. Article 9, we're not going to discuss tonight. I think we've had enough cemetery law, don't you, tonight? All right, anybody else, anybody want more cemetery law? Okay. Next week is our public hearing on the annual and special town meeting warrants. We'll cover the rest of the articles. We'll either get explanations or someone in here to go over them, and we'll be done with it as far as that. Then we have to begin writing the advice and putting together the information for the letter, which I'll bring in a draft, hopefully either next week or the following week, so we can, it's supposed to be a letter from the chairman, but I like to think of it as a letter from the finance committee. So March 26th is the public hearing. The last day for us to vote and get everything in is April 9th, but I'd like to get it wrapped up before then if all possible. Everybody in agreement with that? I don't want to go to the last minute, especially since we have to do advice and we have to do it one night, either as a workshop or whatever, just to get the advice written and put in there. A lot of these, because it's an annual Springtown meeting, we can reference last year or the prior year. We'll have the basic advice that we've had for most of the town articles. We're also going to need some figures next week on Article 3, which is the elected officials. Upper Cape we have. And we'll have that next week. And then we've already got Wareham. All right, so we'll have those numbers on that one. So let me turn around. Nobody hit me in the back of the head with gum or anything, all right? So next week on the 26th, we have our public hearing, and we'll recap we'll probably finish off all the articles next week. The 27th, we have a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen and the school committee.
We do?
Yes,
I
we
will be
do.
available on the 26th or the 27th. You know,
Everybody else up for the 26th and the 27th? 27th is really critical, just so everybody knows. That's the night the budget and the contingency budget will be done. And then the following week, we'll vote on it. We should have that in our hands. We should have that in our hands when, Mr. Sullivan?
We'd have anticipated Friday evening.
This Friday.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was either that or Monday, so we had extra time to look at it. Okay. All right. Do we need Mr. Sullivan for anything else? Tom, you want to have a discussion with him later about the benefits?
Call him on his ride home, it'll keep him awake.
Put
Or-
boxing gloves on, that'd be great.
No, you don't want to box with him, trust me. You don't
I've
want that.
seen his hands, he's
You
fast.
don't want to.
About Bennett, what,
No, the benefits in the pension. Never mind.
Never mind.
well,
We
he, I
wanna
mean,
have
he
a
said,
cooperative discussion,
Yeah.
not to change the reality.
All right, so let's let him go if anybody has
I'm
any
gonna come
questions
by.
for him before he goes. All right, Mr. Sullivan, thank you for your time. We'll have a conversation tomorrow about this.
Have a good night,
All
thank
right.
you.
Right.
Next week, Tom.
So we got March 26th, April 9th, the last day. We should have everything wrapped up.
Kingston.
we hope to wrap everything up by April
Oh, that's wicked.
4th.
Yeah, great.
And then whatever we got to accomplish.
You're gone.
I'm gone the 4th and
What's
the
the
5th,
insurance company?
6th and the 7th. I'll be back on the 8th. Wait a second. Yeah, I'll be
You're
back
not
on the
even
8th.
missing a night here.
Yeah, I am.
Begins with A.
No, I'm not. I'll be here.
And we should be able to take off by
I'm
then.
not
Derek, you
going
live
to.
in Kingston, is that correct?
I do not.
You live where?
I live in Rhode Island.
Yeah, that's what he was, Kingstown.
Kingston, Rhode Island.
Oh, no. I live in Cohasset, which is part of.
Don't say that on public record. Somebody had you pegged for sandwich, so just leave it at that. It's safer that way.
Cohasset?
Yeah,
All right, let's get this over with because I got to get out of here
it's like a
tonight.
village, like on.
Right.
What?
Talk to you.
Any other business?
I'm a little confused. Did you guys change your public hearing last week?
Yeah, we changed it to the 27th, the 26th. We had to because we were under the impression we were going to have our public hearing after we closed the warrants,
Yeah.
which kind of defeats the whole purpose of a public hearing in case somebody came up here. I know this
Oh,
is,
I see.
we
Okay.
see so many people come to our meeting and ask so many questions that if somebody came up here and made a point that maybe we would have changed our mind and at that point we'd already issued our advice, so, and closed our work. So we'll have a public hearing next week.
Wait, you were being facetious, and I
No,
missed that
I'm
part
just
of it.
trying to get the point across. We have
Well,
a public hearing next week for
I was-
everybody listening.
I was under the impression that we had a public hearing so we could explain to the public, and I was afraid we're not quite done with all of our work. We still have questions, but I think we are probably going to have a pre-town meeting or some kind of dress rehearsal to get out there and get that information. We're going to talk to the moderator
We're
about
gonna
that.
bring the moderator into that discussion because at one point she did a pre-town meeting where she went over the articles, if there was any procedural or other type of questions. And last year we did one and it went pretty well. Gives us an opportunity to read the motions, gives us an opportunity to read the advice and get used to it. And it gives us an opportunity to, I guess, clean up the last minute details, dust everything off. So we'll probably do that. When do you want to do that, Mrs. Donahue? Because you're looking, I can almost turn around and look at the calendars, but I'm just lazy.
Let's talk to Claire. I think she's out of town. You're out of town. She's out of town.
Right, so we'll do that another day.
Okay, so we're looking at, you're gonna do next Wednesday, and then,
Next
then-
Thursday, we have a meeting.
And, okay, right, and then, now you're talking about Wednesday the 2nd, okay, that's his last day for FinCom to vote and give recommendations.
We
but-
might not actually have to meet
What
that
day do you
night.
have to
My
go to
goal is
print?
just not to be done.
Okay, I'm just trying to, I know you guys wanna do these motions together, and I'm just telling you, I'm not gonna be able to help you guys out this week at all.
Okay, we've got,
But I can certainly, I'm not gonna be available on this Friday. But I can try to work in around this. Once I'm past this date, I should be okay.
where you at? What date?
I mean, going into the night.
She's going,
I'm
okay,
just
she's-
asking you,
You'll be
what.
gone. You go away. You will-
Well, Kelly goes to print on the 14th.
Right.
Right.
So whatever we gotta do, some of it we can do.
Bless her heart, has given me the rough draft of what we had previously.
Yes, which will help a
So,
lot with the
will help a
explanation.
lot.
We don't have as many
We
explanations
talked, we
this time.
talked tonight about some people doing, so we can talk tomorrow and pin down.
What I could do is generate what recommendations we're
Oh.
definitely gonna need, for ones that weren't recurring, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then we can kind of,
And then just focus on that.
All right,
Kelly,
that's-
I could probably do that. You'd have to send me an email and say, remember I said I would do that, but it's right on the top of my file.
Like I said.
All right,
I
let's,
would-
let's go on and we can discuss it. Any other business and unanticipated items? You know, we don't have liaison reports, so let's just call that other business liaison reports. How about that? Because the only liaison I think we have, please, would you like to,
What?
didn't you say you had to discuss a liaison
No,
report?
no, that was the cemetery stuff.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
that was it. We're done.
I'm just trying to help you out. I'm really tired tonight, too.
I-
Approval of meeting minutes from March 12th. Has anybody read over the minutes?
I got him.
I'll entertain a motion for approval of the meeting minutes from March 12th, 2014. I believe that
Last week.
Marilyn Jordan wasn't here,
I was not here.
and Bonnie was not here. That was what I was going, yes. And Dave Hurd. Has anybody heard from Dave Hurd?
I have not.
All right, I'll call him.
I'm concerned about him.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion.
So,
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstain. So that's one, you can't, yeah, abstain. One is, two abstentions. Look, I don't like the count. After I get off work, I don't like the count. 5, 0, 2.
These were in your folder. You got them?
So you're not going to be here next week, is that correct? You're not here next
This
week.
is mine, print them. I print them off.
All right.
yeah, I saw.
Motion to adjourn?
Not yet. If anybody has anybody knows of anybody who's interested in the finance committee, because every week I put that out there and I check the mailbox and I check with the selectmen and nobody's interested in this committee.
There
Now,
was a
if I'm the
gentleman
prop,
here,
huh?
gentleman here last week.
Yes, he's come twice, but he is on, he is on a, I believe he's on CETA or, community preservation. And in order for him to get on this committee, he would have to leave that committee.
You talking about Joe or?
Oh, Joe is, Joe,
No,
no,
it's
Joe's
the other,
on the
it's the other
CPC, but
fellow. CPC, then the other guy is as well,
Who's on, okay.
so.
Okay.
When do they have to have their paperwork in?
As soon as possible, so we can have him come for the meeting. It's not till June 30th,
Okay.
so,
I have maybe somebody might.
oh no, is she like you, or he like you in any way, form, or fashion?
He's worse than me.
Oh, gosh. And if it helps, I won't be here next year, so you don't have to deal with me anymore.
You may have to stay if you don't have
I
a full
think I was
vote
that
here.
bad.
Huh?
I could have been a lot worse.
Please don't be. No, you're fine. Everybody's good.
I could try,
Um,
meaner.
Just so everybody's aware that tomorrow, Mrs. Font, Mrs. Donahue, and myself will meet with town council. Who else are we meeting with? The town
And
moderator
Yep.
and possibly the town clerk to go over the motions and write the motions. And then we will pass them off to, at town meeting, Mrs. Fonts and Mrs. Catuli are gonna read the motions based on how much we get done. We'll figure that part out. As far as reading the advice, I believe it was Mrs. Donahue and Mr. Hurd are going to, depending on, we'll figure
I'll
out
let
how.
anybody else speak. I think that will come when we do our
Right,
opinions.
we'll just figure it out, because I don't want to do it like we've done it in the past, because it's very difficult. We have a bingo system at town meeting where they just pull something up, and then we have to do all the crazy motions. So I like it better if it's coming from one person reading the advice and one person reading the motion. That way, we're not all sitting there fiddling to see who's doing what, and everything's, it's just very, very, it's chaos that way. Also, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I think by the time we get to town meeting, 99% of our work is done. We just sit on the stage, and we need makeup and stuff and look pretty, and we answer questions if they have them. That's the way I feel about our committee. And people don't have to feel that way, and they certainly can feel different, but we're up there to advise. That's what we're there for. So, anyway, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Don't forget, next meeting is next week, Wednesday.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Everybody, see you next week.
Wednesday and Thursday.
Thursday, now that we're off the air. Are we off the air, Mr. White?